Crazy stuff. The world is going insane. Oh my God. Let's recollect. So if you haven't seen uh geez, back in 2022, uh hello. Okay. I'm moving my mic. Back in 2002, let me see. I have some posts on this that I was analyzing on X. Uh Let me find where I put those. Mm, hmm. Let me also put some music in the back a little bit. Yo, Grant, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Oh, trying to find where I saved those posts. Let me see. Cyber War. Cyber War, no. Five map, cyber hack, no. Did I not save these? Oh no, I gotta go through my X to find them. Oh, let's see. So there's a lot of issues happening in the Middle East right now. It's supposedly cooled down, but I don't think it's gonna be too cool. In fact, there's gonna be very much retaliation on a very silent type. Oh, yep, there it is. All right, well, there we go. On your own Mac, well, then you gotta have the access to it. I don't know how to fix that unless you know the password to your admin. Um, does your mom not know it? Maybe she can help out. Not quite the subject to go on today, but we can check it out next time on our session. Try and figure out what's going on. So, 20, God, 2024. No, okay, so it was about February 2024 where there was a huge large-scale attack between China and United States using Ukraine as a middle point. So this is from uh come on. This is from Casper Sky, which I'm gonna take a look at in a little bit to see if there's any bot activity on the net. Potentially, because the logic I'm thinking of is Iran's not happy that it just got bombed. And Russia doesn't want to interfere because that makes a larger problem happen. China benefits from Iran, and Iran was, they basically got their Senate to approve the shutting down of a strait that produces a lot of oil and energy for the world, like at least 20-25%. But I doubt that's going to happen, at least not immediately, because they have other means. Back in February 2024, can you give me my date? Forget that. Yeah, okay. February 20, yeah, this is when I first started following it up. I started noticing a lot of weird activity on the net. I don't know why it's loading so much, but come on. I think I have these GIFs saved somewhere. Oh, let me find them. It's gonna keep on loading. But what happened was, don't have them here. Yay. What happened was there was a Chinese balloon flying over the United States for a week, And that's how you grab networks. That's how you sniff out mobile networks, getting close to towers and basically pretending you're a cell phone. And when that happens, you're able to essentially get into a network by spoofing. There's, I think, was that Ukraine? Yeah. No, that wasn't Ukraine. It's really hard to tell on these maps, though. It's kind of quiet right now, so this is the current one, right? So it's pretty quiet. BAD is the botnet activity. So I'm looking at multiple places, but I don't think I trust Kaspersky anymore. Kaspersky is an antivirus that's basically hosted in Russia, and they've been kind of doing stuff that haven't been really been good, I think. Censoring, I think, networks. So I got a couple of other options to look at as far as cyber maps go. So there's India, there's Iran. Pretty quiet, looks like. Seems like normal activity. There's never going to be a quiet moment on most cases. We got scanners, intruders, DDoS attacks. So at least no DDoS, but a lot of web attacks happening in Germany. That's interesting. So this is basically a map of everything happening on the internet as far as malicious activity. Oh, let's see. Anonymizers. A couple of those floating around. The scanners are interesting. China's being scanned. US is being scanned. Oh, I just saw some DDoSs. Uh-oh. US having DDoS. Now, the issue was, granted, I don't know if you remember, you had a power outage. You weren't the only student that had a outage this weekend, which makes me think something power grid related is might be happening. Shutting down of power grids or some form of infrastructure attack. And the issue with the oil is no one wants to get the strait. The strait's somewhere, let's see, right here, in this little corner. There's a little teeny tiny island-like thing that all the oil comes from, or at least not all, but about like 20 to 25%. So if they shut that down, that's going to cause some chaos for a lot of people. But that's going to be the last mentality because it's going to affect China, it's going to affect India, it's going to affect a lot of people that, well, I guess they can direct the traffic too, but that would cause some more issues on the sea level. And I believe the US is stationed all over the Indian Sea here. Is that the Indian Sea? I can't tell. It doesn't have the names on these. I gotta pull up the map. So China's already got basically access to most of our networks from February 2024. That's a problem. They've been playing around in our networks and constantly I'm hearing leaks of passwords and different companies getting hacked. As long as you have a two-factor authentication, you should be all right. But I wanted to take a quick glance and chime in on what I think is happening with the potentials here. But I will say it's quite quiet. It's very quiet compared to what it used to be. China got hit massively back in February 24th. It was a back and forth attack. 200,000 customers had the data exposed back then. That's been way, way more than now. Well, now is way more than then. We got millions of passwords being hacked recently. I think 16 million accounts getting uh, exploited, data being breached everywhere. But I feel like the possibilities of having another cyber war, considering that there's already insurgents or intruders in our system, is pretty high as a alternative to physical warfare. Because we already know Pakistan has had an incident. Sorry, not Pakistan. Iran has an incident with hacking Saudi Arabia organizations. Oh, it's a PDF. All right. Overview, beginning of 20th century saw numerous new dimension of security and cybersecurity developing country. Yeah, a lot of developed countries. I mean, you can call them first world, second world, third world, but to have a group of people that are like enthusiastic about security, you can just have 50 or 100 of them, and if they're good, they're good. You don't need a whole army of hackers. You just need some clever individuals. So it's pretty easy to create your own mini army of hackers, programmers, all kinds of bits there. A lot of connected devices. Saudi Arabia has witnessed a series of cyber attacks in the past few years due to its economic political situation. Saudi Arabia was attacked by Shamoon, which was originated from Iran. So Shamoon is the particular group, the hacker group, that attacked Saudi Arabia. So it has a precedent. Iran has the ability to be destructive on the net. Not only that, China has that possibility as well. And in the end, they could be trying something before they go into the physical aspect. Because I think China came into Iran and said, nope, you're not closing that straight. We need oil, we need energy. Every economy is basically on the brink of collapse. One small move in the wrong direction, and we're going to have worldwide recession. Mm, China with its real estate issues, United States with its debt issues, Europe as well with their debt issues on top of it. Hmm. So the top targeted countries, Ethiopia, Nepal, Indonesia, Vietnam, Nigeria. So nothing crazy now, but I think I'm going to be a little bit more aware of these maps again. And if I find anything odd, I'll go live and take a look at it in deeper sense. But again, this is not something that hasn't happened recently. Just a year ago, we had a huge issue um, where I think T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T got hacked, but they blamed it on solar flares because some of the actual like cell phone towers got disturbed. And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's just the solar flares. Solar flares did it, right?" But like no other technology got affected. If solar flares were involved, you'd see transformers blowing up. You'd see chips in cars getting fried. You'd see cell phones getting F too. Uh, Granted, not as many, because give or take, those towers are pretty high. But you wouldn't just have three specific mobile carriers having network issues. You have a much, much bigger, well, plethora. of problems that involve technology blowing up or stopping to work. Oy. Let me see. So I'm gonna chill here for a bit. Keep an eye out. Um,
I'm the urban monk, balanced in a heavy world. Concrete jungle, it's a temple of pride. Mind sharp, slicing shadows, I'm ahead of the time. Static in my ears, but my soul sounds clear. Through the heavy world, I transcend every fear. Drums hit harder than the burdens I carry. Sins echo deep where the darkness gets scary. Meditation in the bass, every drop's a release. Urban monk in the storm, mastering inner peace. In electric current flow, I rise from a static. Heartbeat sink to
Israel also did
automatic. Overcome
basically,
the weight, let the rhythm unfurl. I'm the urban monk, balanced in a heavy world. Neon lights guide my path,
they
illuminate the
broke the
mind.
ceasefire.
Wisdom in the
That's
chaos,
nice.
burning pressure to rhyme. I balance on the edge where the circuits collide. Urban monk
The
in the
last
trap,
attack
ready to
attempt
lift the
was
high.
Iran on a US military base in Qatar that was totally messed up. Did not work at all. Hmm.
Slow, I
So a
rise from a
lot of
static.
chaos
Heartbeat
in the
sync
world.
to the pulse, automatic. Overcome the weight, let the rhythm unfurl. I'm the urban monk, balanced in a heavy world. Feet on crack concrete, ropes in the wind, heavy world spinning, sins thick as skin, city lights blind monks, truth feels thin, meditate through static, let the cycle begin, electric pulse, heartbeat thrum, world so heavy but I won't succumb, mind ascends where the baseline hums, urban monk where the chaos comes. Neon halos over crowded skies, whispers of dawn, my
Well,
voice
Iran's not in
rarely
any of the top
cries.
attackers right now.
Balancing the
Neither is
weight,
China or
wisdom in my
Russia. It's
lies.
interesting.
Mantras in my breath, watch the ego die. Electric pulse, heartbeats thrum. World so heavy, but I won't succumb. Mind ascends where the baseline
Basically,
hums.
do these little
Urban
sessions
monk where
here
the
real quick,
chaos
nothing too
comes.
long, but as a little
Neon
bit of
halos over
a
crowded skies.
digital
Whispers of dharma
diary,
in the subway cries.
digital journal
Balancing
of
the
what the
weight
hell's
where the
going on
frontline lies. Mantras in my breath, watch the
on the
ego
net.
die.
Because it's
Electric
going to
pulse,
progress. Your
heartbeats
every day
thrum.
will probably go through one of these,
World
30
so
minutes or
heavy, but
so,
I won't succumb. Mind ascends where the baseline hums. Urban
and
monk
see
where
how
the
it changes.
chaos
Because right
comes.
now we've got US going,
Towers rise, but they crumble in thought. Brick and mortar
Europe getting a
gods
little
that aren't
bit
easily
on
bought.
the
See
aggressive
the
side,
bruise in the
but
ground,
also being the
take that
aggressor as
spot.
well,
Urban monk chants
oddly enough.
battles never fought. Ashes in my palms, world on fire. Smoke filled prayers rise
God, I
higher,
hate these
higher.
things.
Inner peace sold out, inspires choir. But my spirit stands firm, never a liar. Sitting cross-legged in the cyclone's eye. Meditation deep, all the worlds run dry. Breathing in the chaos, exhaling the pain. Raindrops on my soul, but I dance in the rain. Balance on the wire, no safety net below. Calm in the storm, let the inner light glow. Through the noise and the clutter, I hear the hum. A monk in the madness, the beat of the drum. City lights flicker, reflections in the stream. Concrete jungle whispers, shattering the dream. The monk in my mind chants hymns in the dark. Each
For the
step
need to
on the
not
chaos, a canvas for my
engage
art.
militarily.
Inner peace ain't bought, can't swipe no card. Life deals a hand, gotta play those shots. Turn the rubble into temples, bricks into thrones. The silence in the riot is where
Over the weekend, the president, many other cabinet members, they said that this
What's up with my network though? For real?
because of
This
that,
ain't
do you
right.
see that as buying more time for these?
This isn't normal.
Qatar has tried to mediate nuclear talks.
Very confident in his assertion of the destruction.
Jeez. I ain't even using the network that much right now.
Had from the start of this, which is that Iran cannot have a nuclear. The understanding is now they're not going to have one. And that clearly might open the door for the people involved in those kinds of decisions about how to move forward. But that was, and the strikes indicated that. It was a very distinctive, limited strike regarding the issue that was in the forefront of the president's mind, that he made clear over and over again that they will not have a nuclear weapon. And now they will not have a nuclear weapon. How we move forward from here is up to the President of the United States. Saeed, yes, sir.
Thank you. Now that we have the ceasefire between Iran and Israel seems to be holding, are we likely to see a renewed effort to have a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza? I mean, just for the figures, maybe 400 people got killed in the exchanges between Israel and Iran. In the same period, 700 Palestinians have died, many of them at the aid distribution center.
Yeah, this is why, and we are reminded about why the ceasefire efforts are important. It is a reminder about why the president, and why we're lucky for President Trump to be our president and for Secretary Rubio to be focusing on changing the status quo on this planet and changing the old dynamic of wanting new ideas. It has been his hallmark from the start, and that has not changed. What we can say, and just as a reminder, Saeed, there is a deal on the table. Hamas must stop acting recklessly and accept it. As Special Envoy Witkoff has said, Hamas's recent response to the offer was totally unacceptable and only takes us backward. It hasn't been that long, right? A lot of stuff is happening in a short period of time. But the fact of the matter is that we've never stopped working for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. We've never stopped wanting that to end, to get us out of that repetition of something that has certainly made the first victims, the people of the Gaza Strip, and then everyone else. It's a reflection of what needs to end and what has been the problem. President Trump has made clear to, in this case, Hamas specifically, that they will face consequences if they continue to hold hostages, which they do, including those who have already passed away and those who are still living. Hamas has rejected repeated ceasefire proposals and therefore bears sole responsibility for how this is continuing. Saeed, if you have a chance, I don't know if you do in your work, to pose the same question to Hamas. It would be, you could, I hope you might be asking them.
I'll do it through my article.
Right.
No direct communication.
All right. Yes, sir, there in the middle here. Yep.
Thank you very much. President Trump has long said that Iran should not have nuclear weapons.
That is correct.
That is clear. Do you think it is important for Iran to change its foreign policy, because the US always says it is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism and destabilizing region?
I obviously can't speak to what's in the mind of the so-called leadership of Iran. I do know that the future of Iran is in the hands of the Iranian people. And whether or not certain individuals change their approach or belief, I think what has happened, the whole world has noted that the world has changed and that nothing will be the same. And how that plays out, we are very lucky that we have President
Government leadership and strongly welcome
Hey, what's up with this?
There's again, things are happening and moving along so quickly. Obviously, everything in that region, in the Middle East, has changed. and we will have to see where those who are leading with Trump, Rubio, and J.D. Vance, of course. We are very early in this administration. Results now of men and women who are focused. So we'll see.
Yeah, my network's fine. Holy crap.
Lies
Download's
had
good.
America's back to the extent that they
Oh,
nuclear
what
program.
the hell?
Do you feel like you got backing from
On
Oh
the
my
feelings or
God.
assessments of right now. What I can tell you is that President Trump and Secretary Rubio,
Apple's getting hit over here.
partners throughout Europe. And I think that everyone expects that to be very successful. It's going to be a very exciting time. It's a perfect time for those conversations to be had. I'm not going to speculate on.
Fucking A,
in
something's
terms
weird.
of regime change in Iran? The initial message coming out of the
$6
administration
million.
was, we're not after regime change, we're after the nuclear weapons program. Then the president remarked today, regime change is not a good idea because of the chaos that it would cause. So what is the administration, specifically the State Department's message here to Iranians who are suffering under the oppression of the regime? How do they move forward does America have their back?
To destroy all.
Apple's getting hit
An
though.
update on
That's
the
so
State
weird.
Department's 24/7 efforts.
Holy. A couple of hundred. Not crazy, not crazy. But it is still climbing. We don't know a peak
The
yet.
department is providing information and support
Find my
to both
iPhone?
Israel and Iran. The vast majority of
Issues
people
with
we are in
Find
touch
My iPhone, huh?
State Department began assisted departure flights. Hundreds of U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents.
No, that's bugs since dating best time.
Citizens.
So nothing too
We
crazy
also
recent,
extend
but
our
this is
deep
something that's just
appreciation-
happening now.
Air Base, as well as our deep appreciation.
I'm pissed at the video. Is it YouTube? Why is it doing that? Like, what's up with the network? My general connection's fine.
וללוחמי ולוחמות המוסד.
I literally was just watching a bunch of stuff earlier, no problem.
הקרקע המסורים.
How's my TV? Oh, ads seem to load fine. That's convenient. The TV's loading fine. The hell? Is it a browser thing? Yeah. No. Is it?
The briefing was suddenly postponed. There's real concern right now as it relates to the fragile situation in the Middle East, which is a tinderbox, which is why
Brave is acting up. What's up
on
with
behalf of the
Brave?
American people, needs to hear from the administration what was the justification for engaging in this act of war. What was the imminent threat to the safety and security of the American people that justified this strike without seeking congressional authorization? Pete?
Yeah, they pissed.
We have not received a Gang of Eight briefing, nor has one been scheduled. This is inexplicable. If the Trump administration actually believes that their actions were justified, what are they running away from? Why have they refused to provide a briefing to congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle and on both sides of the Capitol?
I'm trying to figure out this
including
weird
the top
streaming
Democrats and
issue. Hold on.
Republicans on the Intelligence Committee. What is the administration hiding from the American people? At the highest levels of the White briefing of top congressional leaders and top leaders of the intelligence committee on a bipartisan basis.
Why is my freaking...
to provide one.
You know, what if I swap the browsers? Maybe this is eating up my bandwidth. For whatever effing reason.
Let's be clear. There was no briefing that anyone received in advance of the unilateral strike ordered by Donald Trump. All four of us received a perfunctory, so-called courtesy call, providing notice that something was going to occur in the Middle East. That is not a briefing, and the administration clearly had no intention of providing a briefing. I did talk to multiple members of the White House on Saturday, but it was not in connection with providing any briefing. And as Leader Schumer indicated, when he spoke to the White House and asked the justification for the strike without seeking congressional authorization, the same question that I asked them, they could not provide an answer. Thanks. Go back to this side.
The strike's not the problem. 80% of people agree that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. It's a no-brainer.
Obviously, there are several resolutions that have been introduced with respect to congressional authorization of the use of military force, which is the appropriate way
Military
to go.
boots on the ground, not a singular mission. There's definitions for the level.
En materia de no proliferación, retomar ese mecanismo y darle una nueva oportunidad es reafirmar nuestro compromiso con la diplomacia. Mantenemos preocupación por el hecho de que las disposiciones de resolución 2231 expirarán el 18 de octubre de 2025. A pesar de la fecha, los objetivos tanto de la resolución como del plan aún no se han cumplido plenamente. Asimismo, nos preocupa la verificación y el monitoreo
Plan of Action on
del
Nuclear
OIA
Program of Iran.
relacionados con el país han sido
Resolution
gravemente
2231.
afectados por el cese del cumplimiento por parte de Irán, como fue señalado por el informe más reciente del director general de la OEA. En este contexto, reiteramos que nuestra posición, basada en principios fundamentales de la política exterior panameña, es dar prioridad al fortalecimiento régimen global de no proliferación, el respeto a dicha arquitectura multilateral y la promoción del diálogo diplomático como vía para mitigar tensiones y reducir los riesgos estratégicos. Sin embargo, no podemos pasar por alto los acontecimientos más recientes que no hacen sino deteriorar la ya frágil confianza existente y generan serias inquietudes sobre el programa nuclear iraní, así como el cumplimiento verificable de los compromisos internacionales asumidos. El OIE ha advertido a través de sus resoluciones que los ataques
No
a
bueno.
instalaciones nucleares representan un riesgo significativo, ya que podrían provocar la liberación de material radioactivo. En este momento crítico, hacemos un llamado a Irán para que permita el monitoreo y la verificación de sus instalaciones por parte del personal del Organismo Internacional de Energía Atómica. También resulta fundamental comprender la magnitud y la escala de los daños ocasionados por los ataques más recientes, por lo que coincidimos con las palabras expresadas por el director general de la OIEA, Rafael Grossi, y abro comillas: establecer los hechos sobre el terreno es un requisito previo para cualquier acuerdo, y esto solo puede lograrse mediante inspecciones del OIEA. Cierro comillas. Asimismo, instamos a Irán a cumplir plenamente con los compromisos en el marco del Tratado sobre la no proliferación de armas nucleares TNP, así como de su acuerdo salvaguardias y de lo establecido en la resolución 2231 de este Consejo, especialmente ante la posibilidad del desplazamiento de uranio enriquecido sin la debida supervisión del OIEA. No debemos permitir que se debilite la arquitectura de no proliferación, la cual ha proporcionado mayores garantías de estabilidad y seguridad internacionales al reducir significativamente el riesgo de que las armas nucleares se conviertan en fuente de confrontación o de conflicto. Es urgente en este contexto que las partes reanuden las negociaciones haciendo uso pleno del plan de
That's not
acción
gonna happen.
integral
I already already said,
la
you
resolución
attack us like this?
2231
No
del
way.
Consejo de Seguridad
I mean, they kind of wanted to
establece los
again, because they tried to
mecanismos
attack the US
bilaterales
base. That didn't work,
para
but
avanzar hacia la estabilidad
it seems they're very flip-floppy.
I thank the representative of Panama for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Madam President, I thank USG Di Carlo and Ambassadors Zbogar and Lambrinidis for their comprehensive briefings. The Council convenes today on the implementation of Resolution 2231 of 2015, which endorsed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Iran's nuclear program. And this is our last briefing on the implementation of this resolution, which expires on October this year.
Oh wow, that's really far, or really not that
Needless to
far.
stress that this meeting
Again, Resolution 2231 is the United Nations Security Council resolution back in 2015, endorsing a joint comprehensive plan to basically keep Iran's nuclear program under set.
the announcement of
Inspection process, scheduling,
Iran and Israel, brokered
removing of
by
sanctions,
the
just to
United
keep
States
Iran
and Qatar.
under control.
We welcome this
And that's
important
expiring in
diplomatic
October.
achievement, which puts an end to 12 days of dangerous escalation and provides much needed space for the escalation, dialogue, and diplomacy. This latest episode has starkly demonstrated the fragility of our collective security
Yeah.
and the serious risks
I think they're going to try some sort of cyber attack first before,
of nuclear facilities,
so they can destabilize industry,
particularly those under
infrastructure,
IAEA
and
safeguards.
industry. But if they
The
can't do it through the
events
cyber, they're going to do it through
of
the
the
energy that
past
they produce.
days have only reinforced the urgent need to uphold the principles of the nuclear non-proliferation regime and to refrain from any actions that could further undermine its integrity. Madam President, while this ceasefire represents really a positive development, it also serves as a reminder of the critical importance of respecting international legal norms.
This was insane. Just the way Trump replied on this case
including those enshrined in the
is a holy crap,
IAEA
dude.
safeguard system. These safeguards.
So basically, they broke the ceasefire, and then he got really, really mad. Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
God, he's trying so hard to be
do
nice.
not drop those bombs.
Well, do not
what
drop
universe
those
are we
bombs.
living in? If you do, it's a
Seriously.
major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, the ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest
of course he's fucking pissed. It's ridiculous that like, oh, we're gonna get a ceasefire in 12 hours. Like that doesn't mean, okay, get your big ones in now, boys. You won't have time later. Drop them all right now.
I'm not happy with Israel. When I say,
Oh,
okay,
no.
now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
That's so fucking true. That's so fucking true.
Oh my God.
The way he puts it is
and
so
the thing
fucking
is,
true.
he's completely right. And does he
Yeah.
actually just walk off after that?
Yeah, I would too, man. That's fucked up.
He actually just walks off.
Trying hard to just
The
get it
content
done.
President. Yep. Hey, that's right, guys. Wow.
Israel
so right
fucked up.
now, I think that the ceasefire is in effect now.
That they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
What a world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News alert, President Trump making it very clear that if America has to get involved in Iran, it'll end on our terms.
Oh, boy.
And it looks like he's preparing for any scenario.
To be fair, that's smart. I mean, you
That's
shouldn't
3 days
rule
ago.
anything.
Oh, buddy. No, we gotta press. State Department holding a press briefing. So like this stuff is just unfurling now. Constantly going through. There's a ceasefire. Everyone should be counting their chickens and making sure nobody's doing something stupid. Figuring out a way to get the rest of the living chickens to keep on living and not pull a fucking trigger again. Oh, this was the one. This was the one I was looking at earlier. It didn't load up, not correctly. No, it's fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Here. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you being here. I'll get mad at Fox when they try to come in here late. All right, you guys. Of course, a few comments here as we begin on this Tuesday. The past few days have proven that President Trump means what he says. America can be proud that we have a president who puts America first and is a peacemaker. As he said on his Truth Social, both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war equally. It was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capability and then stop the war.
What's on 5060?
Now, an update on the State Department's 24/7 efforts to assist U.S. citizens throughout the Middle East. The department has provided information and support to over 27,000 people seeking guidance regarding the conflict between Israel and Iran. The vast majority of people
Call over
we are in touch
IP.
with are seeking information, which
Damn.
we provide regularly.
They're
The State
hijacking
Department
ports
began
for
assisted
voices?
departure flights from Israel on June 21st. Flights have departed Israel with hundreds of U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents and their accompanying immediate family members. We are grateful to our partners in the region and around the world for welcoming American citizens. We also extend our deep appreciation for the government of Qatar's cooperation in the defense of the Udeid Air Base, as well as our deep appreciation for the the Al Udeid Air Base, as well as the deep appreciation for the American men and women in uniform who are there and for the vital role they continue to play for U.S. and regional security. Yesterday, Iran launched several missiles against AUAB. Many of those missiles were successfully intercepted due to the combined efforts of the U.S. and Qatari armed forces. Thankfully, no Americans or Qataris were hurt. In further announcements today, Secretary Rubio has landed along with the president at the NATO summit at The Hague. As the secretary has noted, under President Trump's decisive leadership, we're driving historic change
NTP, all right.
at NATO.
Network time protocol.
Also this
Interesting.
week, the United States will
Synchronizing
participate
time
in the
between two
55th
machines for
Organization
probably password
of American
encryption.
States General Assembly in Antigua and Barbuda, where we will engage with regional partners to advance our shared goals to make for a safer, stronger, and more prosperous hemisphere. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau will lead the U.S. delegation, reinforcing our commitment to supporting Rosa Maria Paya's candidacy to the Inter-American
Another
Commission
voice
on Human
over
Rights,
IP.
addressing the crisis in Haiti and countering the influence of the Chinese Communist Party in the Western Hemisphere. In addition, today, the Department of State's Rewards for Justice program
Reverse
announced a
call
reward
signal.
of up to $5 million for information leading to the location, recovery, and safe
1434.
return of Mahmoud Shah Habibi. Mr. Habibi was abducted and detained by the Taliban's General Directorate of Intelligence on August 10, 2022. He has not been heard from since that time, and the so-called Taliban government has not yet provided any information about
Discovery
Mr.
for
Habibi's
servers.
whereabouts or condition. We encourage anyone with information on Mr. Habibi to contact +1 202 702 7843. That is +1 202 702 7843 via Signal, Telegram, or WhatsApp, or go to rewardsforjustice.net. That again is an up to a $5
More
million
discovery.
reward for Mahmoud Shah Habibi for his safe return. And again, that is rewardsforjustice.net.
Need to take notes on these.
Excuse me. Excuse me, Matt, please.
Jeez.
I'm more of an announcement here.
Jeez.
To conclude today, the United States condemns the brutal
Yikes.
and cowardly attack on the Mar
Please, sir,
Elias
shut the fuck
Greek
up.
Orthodox Church and offers its condolences to the victims and their families. We call on the Syrian government to hold all perpetrators of violence accountable and ensure the security of all Syrians, including members of religious and ethnic minorities. As Ambassador Barak has said, the United States continues to support the Syrian government as it fights against forces seeking to create instability and fear in their country and in the broader region. And now I will take your questions.
can you-
Daphne, please.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just on Israel, Iran, Trump has said that he was unhappy with both sides for breaching the ceasefire deal, but particularly frustrated with Israel. Does the State Department have concerns about whether this truce will hold? And what conversations is Secretary Rubio having today with counterparts about this deal?
Yes, as I noted in my announcement, and actually what, of course, we always appreciate about President Trump is you never really have to guess at what he's thinking, which is appreciated. One of the most transparent men we've known. Americans in the world have watched all of this unfold, I think, in a very clear way, and certainly with the leader of the free world, of the world, really, essentially, and Donald Trump, making it clear his opinion. And this is what also, I think,
Yeah, because you said the word fuck, huh?
With any ceasefire dynamic, it's fragile. And in the meantime, of course, things did come together, and there has been quiet in that region. He did make clear his feelings about that. But as I mentioned in the opening,
Frustration.
he said,
I'd be frustrated as fuck too.
Just a couple of hours ago, both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war equally. It was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capability and then stop the war. So obviously, the president has believed from the beginning that diplomacy can stop wars, that it is the thing that we should rely on. He leaned into that, and it's continuing to work. This is a dynamic now that is in play and is, I think, steady.
So we're on diplomacy. I think it's the quiet before the storm, though.
And then on his comments about China being able to continue to purchase oil from Iran, how did this come together? Was this part of the Israel-Iran ceasefire deal? And what does that look like going forward? Will sanctions that have been imposed be lifted? Will there be waivers? How does that look?
Those are all very good questions. Yes, and it's obviously a very fast-moving, we've used the word fluid here many, many times, a very fast-moving environment. The president has signaled what he expects, what he is looking forward to. This is a cabinet and a government that acts to the nature of what he says and what he wants. And in this case, of course, I'm not going to discuss what that process will be, the nature of any of the applications via the various departments in this government. But clearly, we are focused on making sure that that guiding hand of President Trump prevails and moves this government forward. So we will have to wait and see when it comes to what that ends up looking like. All right. Yes, Andrea.
Well, just to follow up,
yes.
Does that mean, just to translate, are we lifting sanctions? Has anything happened to make that possible?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president or try to guess at what his strategy will be, but it will be one that will benefit this country, and that, again, he's very clear. I think the difference is, obviously, sometimes you don't hear ahead of time about the trajectory of a president. With President Trump, he speaks honestly with us. So I would suggest to not translate, to not speculate or guess, but to watch, because things happen quickly, and I think we'll find out.
Am I searching too many reports? Are you scared? I'm not a human.
Saying it was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities to stop the war. As far as we know, the bomb damages.
Universal plug and play UPnP.
Chairman,
Interesting.
About how long it might take. Do we have something more conclusive about destroying all of the nuclear facilities?
Well, a conclusive comment for me would be coming from the President of the United States. I have great admiration for you, Andrea Mitchell, but I think he might know more than you do at this point, more than I, more than any one of us here. At the same time, obviously, the information that we receive,
my bot should be able to do this,
which will be public, will take some time. But President Trump has indicated his pleasure at the success of that raid, which obviously was very limited in scope. And that's a very good point, I think, at when it comes to the nature of what's occurred, and I'm pleased that the president is pleased. Sean Tandon.
Sure. Could I pursue that? Another comment from the president this morning, he was saying that basically stop the bombs was the message that he sent to the Israelis. Does he believe that the Israelis complied with this? Is he happy with how it turned out?
Well, I think that there is, early on, and again, I'm here at the State Department. I know my colleague Caroline is very articulate and clear on the nature of the president, whom she represents, and the State Department at the White House. But I think when we clearly look at the nature of how the day has transpired, there was some activity back and forth, And that has stopped, and the ceasefire has taken effect, and the president is pleased. So I think we can take that as an indicator of his feeling about it at this point.
Sure.
One more.
And, sure, and I mean, they're both statements both from Tehran and from Jerusalem and Tel Aviv today. But I mean, one of the things that from the Israeli military chief was saying that they reserve, this is just a phase, and they reserve the right to go back in. I mean, do you think that's consistent with the call for a ceasefire in terms of the Israeli statements on this?
Well, I think the statements that we've looked at that we care about are the fact that both, certainly Israel has agreed to the ceasefire. And we believe there's a statement from Iran that has done so as well. So those are the statements that we care about. All right. Yes, sir, in the back. Right there, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. Obviously, pretty epic diplomatic developments last night.
Yes.
Can you walk us through any of the diplomatic steps that were taken that led to the ceasefire, and specifically Secretary Rubio's role? What are some of the ongoing efforts to make sure the ceasefire sticks? And then a separate but related question. The President spoke this morning about the great trading potential with Iran. Does this administration envision a broader rapprochement with Tehran that could lead to diplomatic ties being established, even the embassy being reopened?
Well, on both those issues, I can't speak directly to them, but I can say a few things in that certainly I wasn't there. The Secretary of State was in a dynamic with the President that is a private dynamic as that team was addressing a war and the nature of how to stop it. So I can't speak to how that transpired or the decisions that were made, but obviously a successful evening, successful aftermath when it comes also to a very quick ceasefire. In the meantime, for your other question, which was, remind me again your second question?
Well, President Trump this morning spoke a little bit about the potential for trade with Iran.
Oh, the trade question.
I was asking more about the
yes, obviously, again, while I can't speak obviously to the choices President Trump will make, what we do all know is that he is a businessman. Americans appreciate that about him, the nature of how he looks at the issue of national security and safety. And he has in the past addressed the issue of relationships with this country, keep other nations secure, that we are a good friend to have, that a friendship with the United States assists and helps facilitate the natural national security of another nation. So I look at that in his approach in certain things, and that's been certainly his attitude about it, and it seems to be a correct one. It's one I agree with. So I think we'll see that if that in fact is the case here, and we'll find out. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any sort of monitoring mechanism for the ceasefire if it continues to hold? Will there be a third party that is making sure that both sides are adhering to this ceasefire?
Well, as I said, the State Department, I can't really speak to that. I think that's a DOD question and certainly a White House question.
And then how do you view the next steps for nuclear talks potentially resuming in light of the ceasefire? Is there anything on the schedule? Any follow-on conversations between the two sides to try to resume the talks that had been?
Well, I can't speak to a schedule. I'm not going to guess or speculate about when something might happen. What we do know, and President Trump throughout this process had been tweeting about the fact that this would be a good time for negotiations to renew, for these talks to renew. Of course, with some disappointment that it got to this point. He has been committed to diplomacy and to discussions. Obviously, he's displayed that for these last 5 months, and I would think that has not changed. So the commitment, not just from President Trump, but also from Secretary Rubio, to minimize the need and go out of your way for the need to not engage militarily, is clearly a hallmark for him and his view of national security and foreign policy, as it is for Secretary Rubio. And I would expect that approach and that commitment to remain the same.
Impeachment?
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Tammy. Just to follow on that, over the weekend, the president, many other cabinet members, they said that the strikes by the U.S. military on Iranian facilities had obliterated the nuclear program. Because of that, do you see that as buying more time for these negotiations to play out? Has the urgency at all changed? And there are reports that Qatar has tried to mediate nuclear talks, try to restart those. Are you receptive of Qatari efforts at this point?
Well, that's not something I can address in any detail at all. I do know that the president was very confident in his assertion of the destruction of those sites. That was necessary because of the point that he's had from the start of this, which is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That has been a very singular, clear point, and the understanding is now they're not going to have one. And that clearly might open the door for the people involved in those kinds of decisions about how to move forward. But that was, and the strikes indicated that. It was a very distinctive, limited strike regarding the issue that was in the forefront of the president's mind, that he made clear over and over again, that they will not have a nuclear weapon. And now they will not have a nuclear weapon. How we move forward from here is up to the President of the United States.
Let's hope so.
Saeed, yes, sir.
Thank you. Now that we have the ceasefire between Iran and Israel seems to be holding, are we likely to see renewed efforts to have a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza? I mean, just for figures, Tammy, maybe 400 people got killed in the exchanges between Israel and Iran. In the same period, like 700 Palestinians have died, many of them at the aid distribution center.
Yeah, this is why, and we are reminded about why the ceasefire efforts are important. It is a reminder about why the president, and why we're lucky for President Trump to be our president and for Secretary Rubio to be focusing on changing the status quo on this planet and changing the old dynamic of wanting new ideas. It has been his hallmark from the start, and that has not changed. What we can say, and just as a reminder, Saeed, there is a deal on the table. Hamas must stop acting recklessly and accept it. As Special Envoy Witkoff has said, Hamas's recent response to the offer was totally unacceptable and only takes us backward. It hasn't been that long, right? A lot of stuff is happening in a short period of time. But the fact of the matter is that we've never stopped working for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. We've never stopped wanting that to end, to get us out of that repetition.
Why is that so hard? Yeah, my
Something
GPU
that has certainly
working.
made the first victims, the people of the Gaza Strip, and then everyone else. It's a reflection of what needs to end and what has been the problem. President Trump has made clear to, in this case, Hamas specifically, that they will face consequences if they continue to hold hostages, which they do, including those who have already passed away and those who are still living. Hamas has rejected repeated ceasefire proposals and therefore bears sole responsibility for how this is continuing. Saeed, if you have a chance, I don't know if you do in your work, to pose the same question to Hamas. It would be, you could, I hope you might be asking them.
I'll do it through my articles.
Right.
I have no direct communication.
All right. Yes, sir, there in the middle here. Yep.
Thank you very much. President Trump has long said that Iran should not have nuclear weapons.
That is correct.
That is clear. Do you think it is important for Iran to change its foreign policy because the U.S. always says it is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism and destabilizing region?
I obviously can't speak to what's in the mind of the so-called leadership of Iran. I do know that the future of Iran is in the hands of the Iranian people. And whether or not certain individuals change their approach or belief, I think what has happened, the whole world has noted that the world has changed and that nothing will be the same. And how that plays out, we are very lucky that we have President Donald Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and a cabinet that is united in the nature of what we're trying to do for the next 3.5 years. One more, yes, sir.
One more. And
please.
Kurdistan regional government leadership.
I mean, that map's looking a little bit heavier now.
Statement about peace. Do you want to comment on it?
Well, no, there's again, things are happening and moving along so quickly. Obviously, everything in that region, in the Middle East, has changed. And we will have to see where those who are leading this charge and this change, again, the American leadership here with Trump, Rubio, and J.D. Vance, of course, just strong leadership across the board. We're very lucky, as we've seen also with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. We are very early in this administration. Think about it. We are in the middle of June, and we've seen the results now of men and women who are focused. So we'll see for the Kurds and others as well. Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Thank you, Tammy. Two questions for you. Number one, especially considering the Secretary is now at NATO.
Yes.
Does the Secretary feel like European allies had America's back to the extent that they should in this Iranian operation? I'm not talking about militarily, but from a general support standpoint, beyond just platitudes of concern about the Iranian nuclear program. Do you feel like you got backing from Europe on this?
Well, I'm not going to comment or speculate on the feelings or assessments of our partners in any kind of dynamic. That's between them. It's about the leaders of the world. Right now, what I can tell you is that President Trump and Secretary Rubio are right there in The Hague at NATO for conversations with our partners throughout Europe. And I think that everyone expects that to be very successful. It's going to be a very exciting time. It's a perfect time for those conversations to be had.
No kidding.
I'm not going to speculate
Team
on the nature
viewers
of
up in
any
here?
conversations or speculate on
Dang,
the
they
feelings
scanning for
of people.
Team Viewer.
Second question
I used
for
to
you.
use that
In
software.
terms of regime change in Iran,
Oh my
the initial
God.
message coming out of the administration was,
That's
we're
one of
not
the
after
highest
regime
scans
change, we're
over
after the
here.
nuclear weapons program.
That's
Then
insane.
the president remarked today, regime change is not a good idea because of the
2%.
chaos that it would cause.
Not as bad as
So what is
6%
the administration, specifically the State Department's message here
on
to
an SIP
Iranians who are
protocol.
suffering under the oppression of the regime? How do they move forward does America have their back, considering the president said regime change is not a good idea right now?
Well, again, that's in the perspective certainly of the president and what his actions, he feels what actions are important, what our intentions were. It was very clear from the start, from the very beginning. For years, the president has spoken about the problem of Iran and how they can't have a nuclear weapon. This is not a new idea, and it's certainly a globally held idea. But we've said here at the State Department repeatedly in a number of different dynamics that the fates of countries belong in the hands of the people in those countries. That is the overriding general message of the Marco Rubio State Department. It is the kind of thing that when we think about, not just democracy, but the nature of the decision of citizens to decide what kind of leadership they want. That is what our position is for certainly Iran and every other country on this planet. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Tammy. Two questions, one on Iran. Have you received any signals or message from Iran that they are willing to come back to the table? This first. And secondly, are you still sticking with the proposal that you sent to Iran, or you are open to discuss more broadly?
Well, again, as we know, many things have changed in just the last few days. And so I won't speak to what messages may have been sent to Iran, which would have been, of course, to the White House, and to if Secretary Rubio as the National Security Advisor. So I would ask you to check with the White House for that. And the next
Syria,
one, yes.
Yeah, on your opening remarks, you said that the United States is ready to help the Syrian government to fight against forces seeking to create instability. Would you elaborate that? What kind of support are you willing to offer to the Syrian interim government? Are you willing to help them or provide them military support?
Well, I think already we know, of course, of the assignment as a special envoy of Ambassador Tom Barrack has been a very clear indicator of our commitment to helping Syria be able to be a functional and steady and stable government. He, of course, is the ambassador to Turkey, and our commitment through his work is about getting the structure, the stability of the government as functional. We also, of course, as you know, have lifted many of the sanctions to make it possible for other nations in that region to assist the new government also in becoming stronger and able to, in that region especially, deal with terrorist groups, especially deal with ISIS, and that is our commitment. So it is, I think, manifesting now very clearly, and Ambassador Barrack is there as our envoy in that regard, and it's a very exciting time with a lot of potential. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. In the gray suit there. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. You've been in the negotiations process with the Iranians for almost the last 2 months at the State Department. And the Iranian foreign minister just last Friday, he said that they suspect that the negotiations with the U.S. Used as a cover for the Israeli attack. And a day after that came the U.S. raid on Iranian nuclear establishment there and the buildings. Are you able to
You mean the big caves underneath mountains trying to hook up some nuclear bombs?
Do you see these claims from the Iranian side?
Well, that's certainly a question that I can't answer, but we've got the best people in the world who are doing this for a living.
Anyway,
who have committed their lives to
look,
making a difference.
if Iran was really interested in making energy, they wouldn't be making a bunker under a mountain and then doing research and purifying nuclear nuclear material. You'd have like an actual like factory or a nuclear power plant ready, and you just start using it. You can use it at 5%. Sure, 5%, 60%. Are we even sure that they went up to 60? I don't know. All I know is if they were going to use it for the purpose of electricity and power, they should have started using it for electricity and power. They should be putting that nuclear purification plant near a nuclear plant, inside of a nuclear plant. Why are you like hiding in a little cave devising your own super weapon? Like that, hiding in your own cave just to purify nuclear freaking. Oh my God, it's such an obvious case. If you have no ill intention, why are you hiding? If you're just going to purify for energy, then go and use the energy at a power plant. It just doesn't make sense. Oh, anyway, nothing happened today, so nothing's going on at the moment. But I did get to learn a little bit about the ports available and being scanned on the net. Although some of the ports might be interesting. Mm, 5938. How about this? Let me just double check my AI over here. Uh, Sometimes it can hallucinate answers. Windows Remote, okay. Does Windows Remote Management use 5938 also? 5985, 5986. So my little AI over here is a little not so smart. You gotta be careful using it. Always baseline yourself. Have an actual good AI. I'm using Grok normally to baseline some of these. 'Cause I got smaller models, but let me check my bigger model. Olama run code llama. No, don't pull the manifest. I got a 13B model. What port is 5938 used for? Or what is port 5938 used for? Yes, I know you can't access the internet. You don't have to tell me that every time. Oh, you're a censored one. Wait, you can't tell me because it's what? Uh, use two sentences. You were just telling me. Okay, so I gotta ask you again. Telnet protocol that allows users to connect to a remote computer using Telnet client? Okay, well, what port does TeamViewer normally use? 8443 or 5938. Okay, so you do know it. Okay, so what about my other model? Olama Run Mistral. What port does TeamViewer use? Yeah, okay. 5. So then, what? Did I ask it what 17? It's tricky. Ports on a network or ports on a computer can be used for multiple things. There's a couple of standards out there, but there's no real standard. There's like 20, 21, 80, 443, things like that. But you're not normally gonna really find many standards above like 1,000. Some will use it though. Oh, okay. Hmm. So what was your answer for 17? Anyway, I'm gonna end it here. I'm horrible at these things. I get distracted so much trying to figure out what model of mine that I have is currently the most accurate. Oh, Setsi, not condoning anyone like how Trump is handling it so far. I mean, yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, the methods are a little bit extreme, but honestly, what are you gonna do, man? I don't know. I feel like I almost trust Israel more with a nuclear problem, even though it's secret. It shouldn't be, 100%. But I feel like I trust them a little bit more because they don't have a bunch of little like hooligans running around the world causing issues, you know? That's my take on it, at least.